So I'll turn it over to, another question.
And I know that your topic was more, you wanted to speak more about job creation because the healthcare legislation has kind of fallen out of the spotlight lately. But because that's your obvious area of expertise, if you had to say, you know, if we could do one thing better with healthcare, what in your opinion would that be?
If I had a magic wand, you would eliminate all federal control of healthcare. Same as with education. You know, it's an issue that clearly is better managed by the state. It's an issue that is clearly mismanaged the further away you get from individuals. You know, you look back through history and all of the real problems that developed in healthcare all developed right at the time that Medicare was established. Unfortunately, it's hard to undo government programs once they're established. And that's why the Democrats were really, really, really desperate to get their toe in the door this year. And you heard some of them at the end there even saying, it doesn't matter what we pass, we just have to pass something. Because they knew that once you're in, then you can kind of tweak it and add to it later. But you got to get your foot in the door. And once they're in, it's really hard to undo it. Because once you start giving people something, it's hard to come back and say, well, I'm running to take something away from you. And people don't like to vote for things like that. There are a lot of problems now with the issue. They've spent all their Medicare money, and that's really another issue. This whole thing about healthcare this year was more to find different ways to tax us to fix Medicare, because Medicare is running out of money. It's a program that's totally mismanaged and is unsustainable. It makes me laugh to hear them, you know, kind of paring things down and saying, we're going to, you know, because of this bill, the cost in 10 years is going to be $36.2 million instead of $36.8 million. They have no idea how much any of this is going to cost. You look at healthcare 10 years ago, you know, we only used CAT scans if you came in with a stroke to find out, is it a bleeding stroke or is it a blood clot stroke? Now I order, you know, 15 CAT scans every day because the CAT scans are so much better that we can tell you, do you have appendicitis or do you have something else? You know, we can do all these things. Technology's better. We routinely order MRIs that really weren't even around 10 years ago. So 10 years from now, who knows what we'll be doing? We may look back and say, CAT scans. Oh, remember when we used to do CAT scans? Oh, that was like Civil War medicine. And at the same time, those new scans may be $20,000 each, but they may be a scan that, you know, eliminates cancer cells when you get your scan. Who wouldn't want that? Everybody would want that. So for these guys to somehow think that the things they're doing now has anything to do with real numbers in 10 years is just fictitious. And when they start paring them down to, oh, we're going to decrease costs by 18% instead of 15%. Those are all made up numbers based on guesses from somebody's, you know, flipping a coin. None of the numbers make any sense at all, and yet they argue about them up and down. That was a long-winded answer and really didn't actually even answer that question. I must be becoming a politician.
Is there a procedure by Indiana law to purge these voter registration files? And could volunteers do that in each of them?
Absolutely. Those things are already in place. It's just coming up with the manpower to actually get it done and just enough money.
Could be authorized to do it then.
Actually, I do not know that answer. Yeah. That means like an alarm clock. Actually, I do not know the answer to that. And I don't know if any of our other speakers might have a better answer. We'll bring that back up as we kind of go on. Yes, ma'am.
I wish you luck in 99, but if you don't make it, would you run against Andre Carson in 7? That's Arthur Street.
I tell you, there are some good guys running against Andre Carson right now. And come and talk to me a little bit later, because I'll give you my opinion on a couple of them.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm aware that Democrats give $100 to, or receive $100 from tort lawyers for every $1 that Republicans receive. But, and that might affect the president's opinion, but yesterday he said the reason that they didn't entertain tort reform was that it would only fix the system by something less than 5%. What's your feeling on the impact of tort reform?
It's definitely needed. And anybody that is in medicine would tell you there's things that we do every day for no other real good reason than we're afraid we're going to get sued. To the point of, $1,000 CAT scans. And I've been in practice long enough that there are some people where I'll talk to them and I'll just say, well, your pain is, it doesn't sound like appendicitis. It could be, though. And if it's somebody that seems reasonable, then you can actually give them good instructions, have them go home, and if it does turn out to be appendicitis, you have faith that they'll come back and get it taken care of. The problem is I see more and more people every day that I don't feel they're anywhere close enough to responsible to do the right thing. And you look at those people and it's like, if I send this guy home, no, I'm just going to get the CAT scan because then I know for sure. And if he goes home and has appendicitis, he's not going to come back and sue me. Now, if we enacted tort reform, it would not change anything probably for several years, because the same way that we've kind of gotten to this point, where I'm terribly, terribly cautious, it would take a few years before you actually start feeling, yeah, I can be reasonable. I can do reasonable things without having to worry that somebody's going to come back and sue me. Because right now, even if you do something reasonable, you may still get sued and you may still lose. Now, Indiana we're a model state. If you remember good old Otis Bowen, who was our governor, I'm not even sure what year he was governor. I was growing up as a kid, but I remember his name. He enacted some legislation where Indiana is a better climate to practice than almost any other state in the union. We're maybe third if you look at the polls. But if I get sued, instead of going to court, it goes through a review panel that's made up of emergency physicians. And so they give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. And if they say thumbs up, that there is enough for a lawsuit, well, then if you got doctors saying, yeah, you screwed up, you just write your check and the patient actually gets that money instead of a bunch of lawyers dragging it on forever and ever. And if the review panel says no, it just stops and goes away. And so it keeps it out of the court. It really is a system that works well. And on the federal level, if they're looking for anything to model it after, our state would probably be it. But the answer to the question, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that all of us do every day just because here in the United States, you cannot miss anything at all.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us your name again, please?
It's just Blank, B-L-A-N-K. Yeah, David Blank.